Well, I always say, when an opportunity comes knocking, don't answer the door naked.
Huh.
Um,
Bro.
Welcome back to another episode of the Bowie Podcast. We have Ken Qualms,
What's going on?
Jesse Bowie Fitness, and
Special guest for today.
special guest Patrick, Joslyn Fox. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you,
Nice to meet you, my man.
How you doing today?
really good. I'm excited to be here. So.
Good. We're glad.
We're definitely
Absolutely.
excited to have you. You know, so I guess going forward, Jesse kept talking on and on about this friend of his that he had. Definitely excited to bring you on, but I mean, a bit of your background. He was saying that you kind of worked all over the place, you know, as far as like in the entertainment world, you know, and even what you're doing currently. So I was definitely very excited to kind of meet you, you know what I'm saying, and kind of hear your perspective on life and what you've got going on so far. So
Cool.
yeah, it's good to have you here with us today, man.
So
For
just
sure.
a little background. Me and Patrick and I worked together at a restaurant. How long did we work together for? Like a couple years,
At
right?
least.
Because I was there for almost 4 years.
Well, then, yeah. But I,
You weren't there at the
For-
beginning.
okay.
For me.
yes. So then it would have been like at least 2 years.
Yeah, at least 2 years. And you were my manager the entire time?
Yeah, and you never listened to me.
I never listened to you. I never listen to anybody. Come on, you should know this by now. All you guys should know this.
Oh man! All right, so I guess we'll start off by saying like you tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and then kind of how it got to this point.
Okay, so I'm Patrick Joslyn. I grew up in Auburn, Massachusetts. I live in Worcester, and my pin fell off. I had my I Love Worcester
Oh,
pin.
no.
That was from the 508.
508.
But I love me some Worcester.
Mhm.
And we'll get to there, but I love all the great things that's happening in Worcester right now. So, but I worked at a restaurant for over a decade in Worcester, and
Jeez.
what I loved most about it, what I miss most about it, is all the people I got to meet. And there's just quite a cast of characters in the city of Worcester, and it's very exciting what's going on. You can tell I love Worcester. But I am 35 years old, and almost 10 years ago, I was on a TV show called RuPaul's Drag Race, and I got to go to Los Angeles and film that, and then I got to kind of tour the world after that, and I had lots of amazing opportunities, and it was always very important for me to bring it back home to Worcester.
Of course.
So I still have incredible opportunities given my platform from that, but I also have been very blessed that there's lots of things that we've got going on here in Worcester, and things local in New England.
Mm-hmm.
And my drag persona is Joslyn Fox, season 6 RuPaul's Drag Race. And I DJ Patrick Allen. I love music, so that's always fun. And, given COVID, there was a huge break in those kind of opportunities, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And just recently, kind of were able to pick it up again. Unfortunately now, kind of back to where we
Back to
were.
the mask mandate and all
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
It's so
Yeah.
tough. I can only
So.
imagine.
But it is, it's been neat to kind of have room to explore other things that I want to do with my career and with my hobbies and life in general, family and friends and all that. I think that's what's really cool about the COVID. It's not cool. But if we want to find the silver lining and the positive aspect of it, is that it's been kind of a chance to reset and reflect on
Of course.
what's important and whatnot.
Everything, yeah.
And I mean, that's all we can do. I mean, that's what I always say. It's all we can do is just like be positive about it. Like, what's the good we can get out of this? So,
All right, so from that, I noticed you said you wanted to kind of, with everything that you said you experienced, you wanted to be able to bring it back to Worcester.
yeah.
So I mean, why is that? Why would you say that is?
I think the assumption was, and I mean, I know it was what I received a lot when I came home from the show was, why didn't you move to New York? Why didn't you move to LA? What are you still doing in Worcester? And I would say, give me 5 years, and we're gonna see a new Worcester. And then, sure enough, 5 years later, all this stuff's coming this way, and I want to be a part of it. And I am. So I've been so lucky that I get to travel the world. I get to hop in an airplane and go from one city to another. I've been, in other countries meeting fans and performing, and that's all amazing, incredible. I'm so blessed, but it's always been very important for me to stick to my roots and come back home, and my experiences I can and bring back, and whether it's influencing some sort of event or a community that's going on, or just to, I just always like to be the beacon of celebrating Worcester. I call myself Mr. Wooster. And I joke, I'm actually on record at the Worcester Historical Museum as referring to Worcester as my boyfriend.
Oh, really?
And I'm actually on record referencing an episode of Sex and the City where Carrie Bradshaw dates the city of Manhattan. And a sailor is visiting in town, and he says, I don't get it. It's such a dirty city. It's smelly. It's loud. And in her voiceover, she says, I don't know what he's talking about, because ain't nobody gonna talk shit about my boyfriend. The city's a very jealous boyfriend.
No, it is.
Doesn't want to share you with nobody, huh? Nah.
So what are some events that you've been hosting around Worcester? Like,
Well, we actually my most exciting one was Wormtown Brewery on Shrewsbury Street. They were coming up with they have their new hard seltzer, and I'm such a hard seltzer fan, and I love anything local. So last summer, might have even been the summer before. It's all a blur with COVID,
honestly.
But it was with Polar when they came out with Arctic Summer, which is now known as Arctic Chill.
I know what you're talking about.
And it was so really, really good. And I was a White Claw guy, a Truly guy.
Yeah.
And I loved that something local was out, and it was really good. And I just simply posted a picture of me drinking it, on Instagram, and Polar reached out, and of course that means the world to me because I love anything Worcester. And when I got word that Wormtown was coming out with a new hard seltzer, I was dying to try it, and I asked if I could go down to the brewery, and I'd be happy to do some promotion. Word got out in the office, and one thing led to another, and they asked me to come down and make my own seltzer that they would name after me.
Nice.
Wow. So we did that, and it was really fun.
Was that the Fox Tea one?
The Fox Tea, yes.
Nice.
I wanted to do a white tea, honey with some citrus, and we ended up going with some fresh lemon. And I love those summery flavors for the hard seltzers by the pool, but something to go into the fall. And it was so good, just better than I imagined it to be. And we had an event to celebrate Pride in Worcester, and we premiered it, and it was I DJ'd, and it was so fun to look around. Just everybody there was drinking the Keep It Fox tea.
Nice. That's awesome.
That's pretty sick. Yeah.
And $1 from each glass went to Mass Equality, which is now they've got a big presence in Worcester, which is really exciting. So, but things like that are really cool because these are the things that I joke someday I'll write a book. Or I'll save a picture of it to show my grandchildren because they won't believe that it actually happened.
I definitely think you should write a book. I think that would be something. I would give that a read, honestly, because you've definitely been involved a lot behind the scenes in Worcester, especially nowadays because Worcester is just growing so much, especially with the Worcester Public Market, the Woo Socks, everything. What is it? Is it gentrified? Is that the correct term, or is that?
Gentrification can have a bit of a negative connotation to it. It is essentially how it could be perceived, what's happening. But, I guess with that idea, yes, one big thing comes in, and then it brings other business in, so when you have something like Polar Park downtown, then other businesses want to be near that because Polar Park's customers can be their customers, and the public market, it's perfect right there for that. Then, of course, you want to have other restaurant options, you want to have other bar options, and then those people coming into town, they need somewhere to stay, so you want to have some new hotels. And I think we saw that way back in Worcester, especially I remember Med City being built, St. Vincent's downtown.
Yeah.
That was when there were a lot of patients from all over the state coming in because we had this amazing medical facility. But that brings in a lot of doctors, and then that brings in a lot of pharmaceutical reps. And from our experience at the restaurant, we saw a lot of those people coming in. They needed somewhere to go to eat.
Yeah.
And those sometimes when I was managing, they needed somewhere what's a good hotel. So that's the kind of stuff that you want to see in a bustling city, and we've got that going on now, and it's fun because if you can identify that and acknowledge it and want to support it, it's the whole keeping things local and whatnot. So if I go to the liquor store, I could buy a box of Trulies, or White Claws because they're great, but I see, you know, a box of Polar Arctic Chills, or I see Wormtown Craft Hard Seltzers. And that's exciting for me because it's like, I want to support Wooster.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely a positive aspect of it because as long as we're supporting those businesses, then it's working.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Worcester always has Worcester's back. You know what I mean?
Right.
A lot of restaurants around here, they support local breweries,
Yes.
local farms, all that. It's really a beautiful thing in Worcester. I've noticed that in the background.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's exciting. It makes it fun. You know, and I've always said that I go back to a history lesson on a field trip. And I remember going downtown where the police station is. And they were teaching us about how George Washington had come through Worcester. And it was because it was kind of like a stopover town.
Yeah.
Between Boston, Providence, New York, Hartford, Manchester. Worcester was that centrally located spot. So that was kind of why Worcester became what it was way back then. Was, you know, there was a need for taverns and inns, places for people to stay. And that was kind of what made Worcester what it was. But in hindsight, when I became, you know, into the nightlife and trying to get people to come to, you know, see me DJ and whatnot, I always felt there was a struggle because there was such an opportunity for people to go out to Boston or to go out to Providence, Hartford, maybe do a trip to New York. And so it was like, what can we do to get people to stay in Worcester? We have it here for them. And so I think that's what we're seeing now is that it's giving people a reason to stay local.
Oh, yeah,
Right,
definitely. Absolutely. So, backtracking a little bit. So, how would you describe your experience on RuPaul's Drag Race?
It was...
You're around my age. You said 10 years ago, right? 'Cause
I was
I'm 20,
26.
I'm 25.
Okay.
Yeah, he's 24. He's turning 25 soon. Little baby. But, yeah, so, like, take us through that process, because I can only imagine.
I mean, it was surreal, and it was so... I had auditioned 4 years in a row. So
Wow.
I was, in my mind, very prepared for what was next. But I had gotten so used to the constant phone call of, you made it so close, but not close enough.
Yeah.
And so when I got the call for season 6, then it was kind of like, oh wait, now I've got to, you know, actually jump in and get ready for this. So so that was just, I think just the speed of all of it just kept me kind of hyper focused on it, and in a positive way where I wasn't, you know, overthinking things or worrying or thinking about the future. It was just, I was in that moment and, you know, just packed my suitcases, hopped on a plane to Los Angeles, and I was there for a month, and it was just go, go, go. Long days, no days off, so it was just, you didn't even have a second to, you know, kind of sit back and absorb it all. So the coming home from it was, you know, there was definitely a decompression and
Oh, yeah. I could only
reflecting
imagine.
on all of it and just like how cool it was. It was such an experience on so many different levels. It was super emotional. There are definitely moments of, you know, internalizing and growing. I was definitely a far different person when I left than I was when I got there. I always think of it as, you know, because it was 4 weeks I was there, and I compare that number 4 to the 4 years you're in high school.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking of it last night, and I was picturing, you know, freshman me in high school, and then me graduating as a senior, and just how different I was. And I try to apply that to, like, my adult life, where we think, like, you know, there are these things that we want to do to grow or to adapt, or, you know, we have our goals set ahead of us. And I just always think of, like, 4 years just seems like such a long time. But if we can apply it to, say, for example, the 4 years of high school, think like, oh, all that I can do to better myself in 4 years. And I think that's what keeps me excited. But it was like I had that 4 years cramped into 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, it was a lot. And I always used to say that the challenges were like seminars. We got to, like, film a music video. I got to record a rap. We did a Broadway musical. It was like we got to do all these crazy cool things that, you know, not everyone gets to typically do in their lifetime.
In 4 weeks.
We had all 4 weeks.
Oh, my
So,
goodness.
Yeah.
That kind of sparks a few questions for me. As far as like the structure side of that though, was like a camera crew with you guys following you around like every step of the way in the house?
No, so we were on set, and
okay.
when the cameras would cut, we would be on what they call ice. It's kind of a industry term, which just means that there's no talking, there's no communication, like no making faces at each other, put off some sort of like an idea, because they want everything on camera, every interaction.
Okay.
and even like when we were in the van to the hotel, or we were in the hotel, there was no communication. It was all on camera. So every experience we had, we got to share with the viewers.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, and it's funny because I remember that moment when I consciously was like, oh, there's cameras everywhere. Because you forget. You get like kind of, you're into that moment. And you just forget that you're surrounded by cameras, and, they're catching every little moment. That's the magic of it. So.
All right. And it was so kind of nerve-wracking too as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everywhere,
I would.
eyes on you. I'd be scared.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you definitely prepped yourself well. Because you said you were auditioning for 4 years before you got on?
Right.
Okay.
Huh.
Wow.
So I knew what I was getting myself into.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which rejection hurt the most?
The first one.
Yeah, I could imagine. Yeah.
But it was, I definitely, I had that moment of defeat, and then the moment of, well, hey, you know what? I went through the process, and I grew up as a dancer, and they would train us in auditioning, the process of it, what to expect, what to do, what not to do. And my favorite lesson from it was, even if it's a job you don't want, just go do the audition, so then that's one more audition that you have like in your pocket.
Experience.
Just to know what so then when the right one comes that you really want, you're so well versed in the process of the audition. So it was almost like those 3 years I auditioned, it was like a real good, just kind of training day, so that I'd be ready for the right season for me. So.
Wow. I feel like that's very big though, because
that's huge.
I feel like now in the instant gratification, just like life basically, everything happens so fast, where it's like as soon as you hear no, or I hear no, it's very disappointing. You know what I'm saying? It's very easy to like lose focus essentially, but to hear that you're able to like hear like essentially be rejected and keep going, you know what I mean? That's big, man. That's very big.
And I think of it as like anything else. If you have a failed relationship, another failed one, it's important to look back and say, okay, where did I go wrong? It's almost like a football game. Yeah. Like when they go back and they have the yellow
film.
And they rewatch it, and so that you don't keep making the same mistakes. And after the third time getting the no, I looked back at my 3 audition tapes and I thought, what's the common denominator that's not working for me? And I realized that I was so hyper-focused on scripting it and having it so regimented and following what they wanted and giving them what they wanted. And then I realized that all they really wanted was for me to just be myself. So that 4th time I auditioned, I just locked myself in a room with my iPad, and I just was me. Good, bad, and ugly. And that was what I submitted, and I've always said, like, I think that's what they wanted, was for me to just be myself. And that's essentially what we want to see when we watch television personality. We want to see their authentic self. And that's always been my takeaway from it. And a lesson I can pass on that, especially audition-wise, but even, whether it's a job interview or a first date, the only thing you can do, and the easiest thing you can do, is just be yourself. There's no effort in that.
Man.
That's
I mean,
beautiful.
it
That's
sounds
beautiful.
good. No, but like it sounds very like it sounds good and sounds easy. You know what I mean? But
Cookie
it's like
cutter,
but
it's
but it's like, come on, man, being around a new experience. You know what I'm saying? Or looking forward to something new. It kind of just forces you to try to do everything to essentially become that thing that you feel like you need to be in order to get that new thing. If that makes sense,
But then I say, all right, so say it's a job, and you have to portray yourself as something you're not. Well, then you get that job, and then you have to keep pretending to be that thing, and then you're not gonna be happy, and you're gonna resent the job. Same thing with like a relationship. You go on a first date and you pretend to be XYZ, and then they slowly realize you're not that, and then the relationship starts to fall apart. But if you go into it in the beginning completely genuine and honest,
yourself,
and everything else is easy.
Literally just yourself. That's what I've learned with my job, with serving and all that stuff. It's just like, I used to have a persona, well, I still do, but of just focusing on work, not worrying about anything, not talking, whatever. But now I've just been like, all right, I can do this job while still being myself, and it's still perfectly fine. Like it makes it go so much smoother, and like you don't feel like you're doing too much out of yourself to do this job when you're just yourself.
Because then it's just coming naturally.
Exactly.
And all the things fall into place. Because it's so distracting when you're in that moment of like obsessing about the right thing to do. You lose that natural finesse of doing the task at hand, whatever. So if you can let that go, and then you're just in the moment, then that's why like improv, in general is the best. The best things come out of improvising anything.
Yeah.
So.
No, Definitely.
No, I appreciate that a lot.
No,
I
thank you.
definitely
That was
appreciate that a lot.
some people. It's right there, but some people just need to hear it to just recognize it. And I hope you guys all recognize it, honestly, because we're sitting in awe right now.
Yeah, man. Like, no, honestly though, because it seems again very. Like it's almost like duh, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but it's like, come on, I just don't.
Stupid as hell, bro. Be yourself.
But I just like I realized like, all right, it's important though, like just moving forward, right, in life in general, you know, with anything, like just being whole and being genuine definitely does go a lot further, I'd say, than like trying to cap or like lying about things. You know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely appreciate that a lot, honestly.
And in that too, I've also been talking a lot lately about a self-fulfilling prophecy. And this was what we used to talk about waiting tables, was if you see a table and you go ahead thinking, all right, they're not going to want to hear my spiel. They're not going to want to hear me talk about this new dish that I just can't get enough of. They're not going to want to hear the specials. They're not going to laugh at my jokes, and they're probably going to leave a bad tip. Well, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's going to happen.
Because now you've put that energy out there, and then that's where you're going to get back. So that was always like a lesson of you never judged a book by its cover. Because you could have the worst table ever, and they might leave you the best tip. And then leave an amazing review on Yelp. And then you might have like the best table ever, and then it's this horrible experience. But it's because how you go into it. So if you put that energy out there, that's what you're going to get back. So if you think like, oh, I'm going to mess up this job interview, well, then you're already in the bad spot. No.
1000%.
The worst, and what's the worst case scenario when you just say like, I'm going to nail it, I got this, and then they don't call you back.
That's
okay,
it.
wasn't meant to be. And then, and this is my other one, I'll stop.
No, keep going.
Yeah,
you're here for a reason, Becky.
You know the old saying, like, when God closes a door, he opens a window? So kind of along that, you know, if you do, like, for example, so say I'm auditioning for Drag Race, and I never got season 6. And then I got a phone call the next month, and, like, some movie wants to cast me in something. Say I did get cast on season 6. And then the movie calls, and it's like, well, now I can't do it because. So you might think it's like the dream job or like the it relationship, but if something better comes along, you know, and then you're not available for that opportunity. So every no, every door is just allowing you to be available for the next thing because it's going to be the better thing.
All right, so now we're just gonna talk about life since you just said that. No, but like, all right, because at 24, right?
Yeah.
Moving forward. Or just at this middle age, 20s, whatever. It's like, I'm very anxious about like what the future could look like. You know what I'm saying? Or like, if I don't do the right things, you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe it could mess everything up for the future. So it's like, what is your kind of take on, is there something that you would tell yourself, your younger self, you know what I'm saying, at that point, that you didn't know at that time, from this point in time in life?
My mind goes right to that I wish I knew then what I know now. I always feel like if I knew now what I knew then, I would have given up. I would have had a more negative outlook on things. It was like I was so young and naive that I was able to just put myself out there.
The ambition.
Right. But, you know, anxieties come deeper as you get older. And I think I would have scared myself into doing the whole, like, protecting myself from getting hurt and stuff. But you have to go through that to get further. So I think it's important when, you know, say 24, that you just are able to welcome any of those opportunities. And the anxiety is good. The anxiety, I've always said, you know, I used to say it to my dancers when we'd be backstage, and the moment that you're about to go on stage and you don't feel nervous and you don't feel anxious, hang up your shoes, because
1000%.
That is what drives you to do what you do so well. And so that nervousness and that self-doubt is good as long as you channel it the right way.
Okay.
It's good.
It's just change.
It's good though to do the self. I see it a lot on Instagram. It's I can't think of what it's called now, but the look in the mirror and erase the self-doubt and say, no, you've got this. And it's fine to do that. Be your own cheerleader. And then when you get the no, it doesn't turn out the way you wanted it to. The worst thing to do is just let it make you not want to try again.
Yeah.
It should fuel your fire more for the next shot. So.
Okay.
And you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Okay, so another question in regards to that. Like, all right. So say there's something that you want to get out the way, right? Just a project or whatever the case may be. How do you go about preparing yourself for whatever the case may be? So like it's an event that you got to do.
Yes.
What's the process that mentally you kind of go through and tell yourself, like, you know, if you can elaborate on that a bit?
I know for me personally, it's there's a lot of preparation. Whether it's first I'm getting the promotions done, so I'm online doing all that stuff, and then I'm picking out music, or I'm picking out a costume, or I'm building up contracts to send out, and all that kind of stuff. But I find the more of that I get done in the beginning, then I have this like big open window before the actual event, and I'm the kind of person who I just want to keep on, poking away at things that can be done for it.
Uh-huh.
And then I get to a point when the event's over that I'm like, that's it. Because you do put so much into it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when it's over and you can say like, nailed it. Whereas if you end up in a spot where it's like, well, why didn't I see this coming? I like to prepare for the worst case scenario.
Of course.
But I try to not let that be my anxiety that drives me day of.
Mm-hmm.
Because then I'm thinking like, well, what if my music skips? Or what if I fall off the stage? What if? That stuff happens, and there's only so much you can do to prevent it. If there's nothing you can do to fix it or prevent it in advance, then there's no point in worrying about it. And that worry is a waste of energy.
You just have to bounce back quick. That's it.
Yes, the anxiety is good. And Kathy Hilton, she is nuts, and I love her. She's Paris Hilton's mother.
Oh,
she's
gotcha.
now on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and she is a star in her own right. But I remember back when I was 18 and I was dancing, and I read an article she did in Cosmo magazine, and she said her best piece of advice is there's no sense in worrying about money on the weekends because you can't do anything about it until Monday anyway. So I apply that to everything. If I am getting all worried and having an anxiety attack about something, I have to sit back and think, is there anything I can do about it right now in this moment? No. So worrying about it until, say, Tuesday when I have that meeting, there's nothing I can do about it. So I'm just going to make sure I'm ready for that meeting, and I am, but I'm not going to waste the energy in the meantime of just senseless worrying.
Appreciate that a lot, man.
That's amazing.
For real. Yeah, that's very big. And again, it's like, up until you hear it, you know what I'm saying? Like, the thoughts kind of create themselves.
Exactly.
But up until you hear it said, it's not as
It's
vivid.
simple stuff. But I think the simplicity of it is what makes us as humans want to think, easier said than done. But really, when you just kind of apply it, it all just kind of falls into place, and you get a snowball effect going, because that's a good positive thing, and then, then this makes sense to me, and I can do that. And then you reap the benefits of it, and then you want to keep doing it. It's like cleaning your house. You get one done, and you're like, okay, I'm good. And you're like, but now I can do that, and you get that motivation.
Yeah.
And it just you keep going.
I know exactly
with
what you're talking about.
Okay. As far as now, like your day to day, is there a way that you structure your daily, like your schedule for the day?
Yes, I actually just recently, and again, it sounds so stupid, but it's really made such a difference for me. I have a pad of paper, and any sort of to-do list. I'm very I keep everything up here, but I've learned that just the way my brain works with my anxiety and my ADHD, that I have it all here, but it's really hard for me to pick one of them without having all the other ones still being like, we're here. So I find if I take all those and I write them down, once I hunker down to get those done, it's just more tangible for me to see that list.
Yeah.
And then what I do is I have another list, and it's the days of the week. And I take those to-do things, and I assign them to each day. And the end of the day, I look back at what my 3 or 4 things were to do, and I cross off what I got done. And the other 2 that I didn't get done, they just go to another day. And the last thing that I do is beat myself up about not getting them done, because at least I got the other 2 done.
You got something done.
Right.
Yeah.
And it can move to another day. Then there's, things that's, deadline, I have to have this done by Wednesday. I might put that on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday until I'm able to cross it off. Because otherwise it's all floating up here, and it gets overwhelming, and then you can let yourself get to a point where it's like, well, where do I begin?
Yeah.
And that's frustrating.
You see, this
that was me last week, bro. Yeah.
I feel like with us, it's not the where do we begin, because we can do that.
Yeah.
It's about like not knowing things are messed up until it all comes crashing. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
the
We're
way
in the middle.
the title just boom.
Right.
That. So again, we definitely really appreciate any insight that you'll give us about just life in general.
Well, I always say, when opportunity comes knocking, don't answer the door naked.
Huh.
Meaning,
Oh, man.
you always want to be ready.
No, we get it.
No.
No. Just elaborate. Go ahead.
Because if that amazing opportunity comes your way, and you're like, oh well, I'm not finished with my that course I was taking I needed for this, or I never got around to organizing those files, whatever it is. So you can't tell opportunity, can you come back in a week? Because that it's not going to come back. So that's you answer the door ready to go. Yeah. I mean, unless you look really good naked, like Jesse.
You don't know that.
We know, bro. No, we know. Just go to his IG fitness page. You'll see what we're talking about. That's definitely very big. Wow. It's a lot of gems right there, and I know we definitely wanted to talk about a bit of your background, but I feel like it's important to understand like
the foundation, the basics. No, like for you to have so many accomplishments, and they are accomplishments. It's just like people have to know like it's not easy.
And it's not by accident either.
It's not by accident. You have a set system that works for you, and
that's the other thing I'll say is that it doesn't work. Everything has to have their own system. It's whatever works for you.
Yeah.
But if you get lost in that, well, this isn't working for me, I give up because nothing else has worked. But you just keep plugging things in, and eventually you find your own little swish in the river.
As far as the structure and all that kind of applies to like a regular civilian. We'll say like that's information from that can go for the regular Joe Schmo, whatever. But now as far as like being a star, right? Some of life's difficulties I feel always coincide with the new opportunities that you speak of. So for me personally, I'd say like every time I feel like life is going to shit or going bad, that's when like something happens, and then I have to be able to be present in that moment, but like subside my emotions. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that make sense?
Do you mean something good comes along, or you mean one more bad thing happens?
No, like, as in the midst of the chaos or whatever, then it seems like that's when I have to be able to focus on the good that's presenting itself. Yeah. You know what I mean? And put my emotions aside. So I'm saying, the question is, like, growing up or in the process of, like, stardom or whatever, how did you kind of overcome that? Or what was your mindset as far as, like, when bad things happen in life? What is it that you use to keep going and motivate yourself?
I've always it seems so inept and natural for me to my mind just goes to seeking the positive in bad things, and again it's like one of those easier said than done, but whether it's a failure, I try to think, well, how can I do it better next time? If I said something that hurt someone's feelings, then I'm thinking, okay, how can I get better? And then how can I make it better with this person? Because it's easy to just kind of write it off as, that friendship didn't work out, or
like a mistake. Like
they're wrong. Yeah. Right. So it's just so easy to fall into that self-defeat and apply it to our stuff when a lot of it is other people's poison. It's their stuff. So what I've been teaching myself is... if it's something, if you can't change the person and their behavior, what they said that was rude to you or what hurt your feelings, if you can't change that in them, then you have to change how you accept it from them. And that's the only power you have, the only control you have over it. So I always give the example of, someone bumps into you at the grocery store and doesn't say sorry. You can let that haunt you every aisle you go down. You can go home and bitch about it to your spouse. You can let it follow you to work the next day, or you can just step back and say that's their stuff, not mine, and then you can be a compassionate fellow human being and think maybe she's having a bad day, maybe her dog just died, or you don't know. Everyone's got their thing they're going through, and my new motto has been we're all God's creatures, and even if it's the rudest person or the most vile person or a gross bug on the wall, I just try to always think we're all God's creatures. We're all here for a reason. We've all got our own thing going on. And putting out negativity towards that stuff is not going to bring anything but negativity back to you. So, and it's just, you have to figure out where that thing is going to fit in your... You think of it as like a... I'm all about analogies. Like a Monopoly board.
Yeah.
You buy like the hotels and the stuff. It's almost, I think of it like that. Like, okay, I just acquired a hotel, but it's, bad news from a friend. Or I acquired this hotel or the boardwalk, and it's not one I wanted, but now I'm stuck with it because it was, I missed a car payment. So if those are going to take up space on my board, while they're there, I'm going to make sure that they're useful spaces on my board. So that car payment miss, well, I'm going to go see what I can do with my finances so I can make up for it next month. Check my credit score. Be positive about it. Don't get down. This is what I did last night, to be honest. I was going over my credit score and what can I do to make... Because it's so easy to just get like, oh, I'm so behind. My credit score is sinking. But I turned it into a positive, and I did some research. What can I do to turn it around? And it was very empowering. I felt like I'm in control of this.
Yeah,
I can fix this. But it's too easy to fall into the woe is me. But at the end of the day, it's all we have is the ability to stay positive, I guess.
Keep pushing.
And it's hard.
It's
sometimes,
very
but...
hard, man. It's just not easy, but it's good to hear like insight on it again. That's why I am asking a lot of questions about.
There's always light at the end of the tunnel.
Always.
And it's not just these beautiful lights available on Amazon. But no, I guess that's always been my thing, that it can always be worse, but it's always going to be better. And so if we can just focus on that, because you think back, you have to think back of like younger you and thinking like, oh, life's gonna suck, this is never gonna work out for me, and then you just have to analyze where you are now and give yourself those little pats on the back, like, hey, I did nail that. That's why I'm here right now. Okay.
The small victories.
Yes, exactly, because they add up.
I'm telling you. You gotta recognize the small ones to even achieve the big ones.
Nah, I'm
There's
like
still
OD locked in right
Yeah.
now, bro.
I hear you,
I'm locked in OD.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, wow. I honestly didn't expect the conversation to go this way, but it's again very important because I feel we do have a lot of young listeners.
Do you ever find your own applause?
Like clap for myself?
Yeah.
Or no? I'm gonna be honest. I'm not good at
when
that.
you're in that moment, like say you wrote a paper for school and you're like so proud of it and you get a bad grade on it, but you nailed it. You put your heart and soul into it, but you didn't get that applause from your professor. You gotta find your own applause and know in your own head that you did the best you could. You're proud of that work, and you can give yourself a little.
Give it up for Ken Qualms.
Nah, bro, hold on. I'm about to start tearing up. No, this is really serious. No, like it's really serious to me because at this point, I feel like I've gone through like the last 5 years. You know what I'm saying? Just moving. And if it wasn't up until like working with Jesse for the last like 6-9 months, I wouldn't have realized like. We have come a long way since we first started, you know what I'm saying? Because we started off doing events and working in that field as well. So that's why I'm trying to understand, like, what it takes to make it this far. You know what I'm saying? Because it's definitely it's a hard road and it's a very long road, But
that you have to be your own cheerleader all the way through it. Because you can't, we seek validation as humans. That's normal. But a lot of us get lost in that and we aren't able to achieve those things that we really want to and need to and deserve to because we're constantly seeking that validation from other people and we don't allow ourselves to validate us,
Ourselves.
So that's about finding your own applause. That at the end of the day, you can go to bed, put your head on the pillow and think like, I did good.
One day, hopefully. One day.
Moderation. That's it.
One day.
That's the
Baby
big key
steps.
too.
Man.
Moderation.
Wow. God bless you, honestly. Yeah, because it definitely clearing up a lot in my day-to-day. But you probably don't even realize. I mean, there's no way you'd be able to know. But yeah, you're clearing up a lot for me, I'd say. Because, wow.
No, we thank you. No, honestly.
Wow,
thank
man.
you.
I'm the gay white Oprah.
Oh, man. All right, so I guess we can kind of go there with it then. So growing up, were there, I say any, like, adversities with that, kind of, with people, maybe, how they treated you in regards to being gay,
I just, I saw a funny meme going around and it said, growing up, I wasn't just gay. I was gay and weird.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
But I was definitely a weird kid. I was different. And I got picked on a lot. But I always said I never would take that back because it made me stronger and gave me some sort of a backbone. And then when it all kind of made sense to me that, I was gay, I was able to put a face on it because there were older gay students in my high school. And I finally had that, like, light bulb go off. Oh, that's what gay is. I'm the gay. And so I felt free to come out. And I was 14 years old. It was very young at the time. And then I just felt very empowered through the rest of my high school years. There was definitely, some flack that came my way, but I was also celebrated for it.
Okay.
And again, that was my naivety at 14 years old, thinking I finally am able to put a finger on how I'm feeling, and I want everyone to know. And then in hindsight, it's like, well, maybe I should have kept it a secret for a few more years. But I had to just, be that strong kid at a young age. But that's maybe who I am now. So
yeah, 14's very young.
Yeah. And the kids, they're coming out even younger now.
They are. It's the community. It's just the whole like generation nowadays too.
Because and again, like when I didn't know what gay was, and I didn't know anyone who was gay. But when they were kids who were a few years older than me, that were fellow students, and they were identifying as gay, it humanized it.
Yeah.
And I've seen that a lot in my lifetime, where a father can be very just not having it. My son's not gay.
Yeah.
And then they're the ones who come around, and they're the ones at all the pride events, and they're the cheerleader, because sometimes you have to have the face put on it. It's someone you know. It's almost like cancer, or like things that is out there in the world, but until you are touched by it personally by someone you know, that's when you're really like, okay, now it's a real thing.
Yeah,
right.
it's real.
Right.
Yeah.
No, for sure. It's definitely more impactful in that sense. Because now it's my own son. Like, I love, you know what I'm saying? I can't cast you away, because I feel like it's the narrative, or maybe like that. What's the word? Kind of like that bias of maybe not ever being around a gay person.
Yep.
Almost the same as like racism. Obviously,
it's there's a privilege there where like I don't have to worry about it because it doesn't affect my life.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Right?
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say.
And I can have a negative opinion about it because it doesn't affect my life. But when you have to, well, that's when you have to like be a smart, human being,
right.
Fellow citizen of society, and treat people with respect. So.
Man.
Just some decency, honestly.
Speaking on some of the things that you're doing currently now, if you don't mind kind of walking us through maybe some of your day-to-day, or maybe future events that are coming up, whatever you'd like to speak on.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it came back all at once. It was, a good year of no gigs, and I don't know why I thought it was going to be like a gradual, but it was, a year of everybody bursting at the seams to go out and be entertained. So it was a really fun end of summer for a while, lots of gigs, and I got to travel again, and then now we're kind of back to slowing down. But even yesterday I saw a lot of events that I had RSVP'd to, and following up with my calendar and seeing a lot of them in big capital letters canceled due to COVID. So it's disheartening, but we did have quite a few events within the past few weeks that ended up being canceled, gigs that I was going to DJ at or perform at. And, it's part of the times we're in now. And I try to just allow that time to myself to, further hone my craft.
Yeah.
Whether it's not just the DJ or drag, but just anything in general. I do try to do a lot of research on things, and my new I've been doing it like a nerd for the past years, like to read the news.
Okay. Like the
and
newspaper?
I'm not at the newspaper point yet.
Oh, okay, I was about to say.
But no, I like the news app on my phone.
Okay.
And I recommend it, and it's and even now if you have an iPhone, I noticed that if you hit the news, especially on, I think Sunday nights they do it, it's the what you missed this weekend that you need to go into the office with on Monday. Something to that effect.
Like a recap in a sense?
Right. So that when you go you're by the water cooler, like they say, on Monday in the office, and everyone's talking about XYZ that you are, and it is again, it's a privilege thing where if it's not affecting me, then I don't need to know about it. And that's why I feel like I want to know what's going on in the world, because it's like unless we all aren't on the same page, then things aren't going to progress in the right direction.
Things won't be done. Yeah, right. I get you.
And so it's you can't do the whole, well, that doesn't affect my life, so I can ignore it, because the second it happens to you, you want the whole world to be aware of it. I think of, the girl goes missing, okay, whatever, and then you're the father of, the girl who goes missing, and you want the whole world to stop and pay attention and make change, and we got to change these laws. So I think it's important to put yourself in other people's shoes in those situations, and just so you're more well versed as a human being in society.
Yeah. Don't answer the door naked.
Don't answer the door naked. You'll get arrested.
Jeez, that's funny as shit.
But I do that's my little guilty pleasure, and and I have it's so nerdy. Well, okay. This is really nerdy. One of my guilty pleasures is I like to read restaurant menus.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know if it's a
Wow.
COVID thing but like I'll just
How
think
come?
of I just like to see what's on the menu. I like to see
Like changes or just like kind of like.
just like I'll think of a restaurant and be like, oh, I'm curious what their menu looks like these days. And then I
yeah,
like to look, and then I like to analyze the fonts,
Really?
grammatical errors. No.
No, you definitely do. You don't say no.
But I'm gluten free, so I do like to see,
Yeah.
because there can be a gluten free menu and they've got 2 options, and I see ones and the entire thing's gluten free. And I like belong to a page on Facebook that everyone shares their new finds of a place that has gluten free on their menu. And
Nice.
but just I guess that sense of community I gather from that and from the other things that I do is what's been important for me during COVID. That's like my socialization, I guess, and we can at least have that via internet and social networking. And then my other thing is, and it's the ADHD, I know it, but I cannot watch a movie without thinking about, what was that actor in that I saw, and then I have to Google it on IMDb.
Yeah,
I do the
that
same
as well,
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But I love it because that sticks in my brain, and then like it comes up in conversation, and it's fun to talk about those things. And then if you ever see me at a bar and we're playing trivia, you want to be on my team because
all that.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
right? Man.
I think it makes it interesting to watch the movie too, because then you can see like the actor act differently.
Right.
Like, it's completely different like
Right.
character. I think that's what I've noticed, especially with like recording this podcast and stuff. I'm watching movies differently. I'm watching shows differently. It's really a beautiful thing just to be in the know. Like I mean, I'm not well diverse behind the camera, but I know a little bit. So it's just seeing some of the scenes that they do. Oh my god! Like it's just I can only imagine what it took. Like what type of technology it took to just even get that.
it's the whole technical aspect of it,
Yeah.
and I've always said it's a blessing and a curse because I can't just watch a movie and enjoy it, the magic of it, because I'm already thinking about how did they shoot that scene. All that kind of aspect of it. And I do the same thing if I see a production on stage. Anytime I'm at the Hanover Theater, I want to have a seat down in the front, not so I can, but because I want to see what's going on backstage. I love all that kind of stuff. And I've learned that, I say blessing and a curse, but it's just that's my perspective of,
Yeah.
Art in that form.
I hear you. My attention to detail is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Literally.
Right.
Like, it's just, you want to know everything that's going on in the background, and then it's just, you forget that they created this thing happening right
so
in front
you
of you.
don't see
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Would you say that maybe producing, like as far as reality TV is something you'd want to get into in the future? Or?
Any job I've ever had, as much of a performer as I am, I've always realized that I like the background stuff too. When I worked retail, I worked at the mall, and I used to call it, the back room was the operational. That was the stocking, the scheduling, the conference calls, and then on the floor, I would say it was on stage. And that was when we worked at the restaurant together, that was what we called it, that you were on stage.
Literally.
And I think a lot of performers, as far as actors or dancers, that is what they know, is the performance aspect of it. And I love that I find a passion in both ends of it. That I like I like sitting in front of my computer and sending out invites on Facebook. I like writing out a contract for a gig. And then just as much as I love actually performing at the gig. So I think it's and I've always said, if you have one passion that you want to follow a career in, make sure you can do everything involved, because that'll always set you above. It's like being a triple threat as an actor.
Yeah.
You don't bother auditioning if you can't act, dance, and sing, because they're going to want you to be able to do all 3. But like if you want to apply for a job and it's for this position, you want to make sure that if they ever said, we need to throw you in here, that you're like, throw me in there, I can do it. That you can do all the aspects of.
I hear that. I mean,
Bro.
that's kind of what I've learned too, because I'm a part-time manager now at my restaurant, so I'm learning that like I can apply what I know as a server, but also there's a lot more I can learn as a manager as well.
Right.
So just being able to, like, they could just throw me anywhere and I
Right.
can do whatever. That's the beauty. I never really
And that's what
applied
makes,
that.
that's
Yeah.
an MVP.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
think of it like football. Like if you are someone who can be a quarterback, you can be goalie. You can be a point shooter, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
No, I don't watch sports, so yeah.
All of those are right.
But I love that in working in a restaurant. Like I loved getting familiar with the way the kitchen operated and the way the chef had to measure out ingredients and then go into inventory and then the ordering and all that. And I think when you do have a passion for everything involved, it makes your job just that much more fun and you can really feel like you're sinking your teeth into it and you have a good handle over it and then you're super confident.
No, you're definitely gonna make it though, man. I feel like, because you're a very genuine guy. You know what I mean? Like I just met you like this very day. Jesse's known you for some time now, but I know for a fact whatever you do, like you're gonna be okay in life, man. Yeah, honestly, because it's very like you don't hear that. You know what I mean? I don't hear that too often from anybody. You know what I mean? So I feel like for sure you'll definitely be just fine, man. I know with COVID and everything like that, it seems maybe things are a bit wonky, but there's definitely room for you. There's definitely a lot of room for you. Yeah, man.
But I'll say with that, thank you very much.
No
Thank you.
doubt.
But I'll say with COVID again, like that, I've just tried to turn it into a positive. So I hope everybody's figured out a way to do that. That this is just a bump in the road, and now is the time we can utilize to reanalyze and reset ourselves, and
Go back to the basics.
so then when COVID's over and back to normal life knocks at the door, we're not naked.
Right.
Yeah, we are not naked. We're not getting arrested today. Absolutely not.
Nah, man. But yeah.
Wow.
Definitely appreciate you coming on with us
Yeah,
today.
no, thank you so much, Patrick.
Thank
Give
you. So much fun.
a round of applause, Patrick. Thank you so much. Drop some Fox, everybody.
All right, so
Thank you.
Where can we find you on social media? If
I'm on Instagram, Joslyn Fox, JOSLYNFOX. I'm on Twitter. You can check me out, joslynfox.com.
Oh, you have a website?
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry. I'll put the website in the description.
Alright,
everything.
yeah. And yeah, so this was so much fun. I
Yeah.
love just, chatting. My best friend and I do have plans to start our own podcast.
Okay.
It's be really fun.
Yeah.
And we were going to call, we had a name for it, but we joke now that just with all the things that happen, crazy stuff
Yeah.
you couldn't believe in my life, that it would be called Can't Make This Shit Up. Because every time she's like, there's no way this actually happened to you. But it's just, and I love to tell a good story, and people go nuts because it'll take me this long to get to the point. But it's like, I gotta, you can't make this shit up. I gotta tell you how it all led to that.
All right,
Absolutely. So, I mean, once you get that going, if you do, I'll put it in the description.
Awesome.
I'll definitely help you promote it. Absolutely.
No,
No,
I
I
definitely
definitely. I'm
appreciate
looking forward to that. I
Yeah.
want to hear what type of
Honestly,
shit you got going on.
Honestly.
That's gonna be fun.
Man.
But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to another episode of the podcast. We had Joslyn Fox, the honor. Thank you so much
Thank
for coming
you.
on. Thank you again.
Thank you, Jess.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Ken.
God bless you.
And Ken Qualms, you already know. Jesse Bowie Fitness. Tune in next week. Thank you again, guys. Have a good one.